Welcome to Season 3 of You're Not Alone with Townsend. My name is Townsend, and if you've followed my journey, you know that I'm not only a musician, but I'm also a mental health advocate. I use my platform to help spread awareness, love, build community, and simply help people feel less alone in their struggles. In the last couple of years, I've had the chance to interview people from all over the world about a huge variety of mental health topics, and I cannot thank each of you enough for helping us continue to shine a light on the world. Every other week this season, we're bringing you the best interviews we've had. Make sure to like and follow this podcast if you're enjoying it. And if you want to keep up with everything we've got going, follow us on socials at Townsendtmusic. Hope you enjoy. What is up, guys? Welcome to this episode of You're Not Alone with Townsend. I've got a special guest today. We've got one of the two members of a company that we're going to be chit-chatting about. We've got Miss Leah on here from South Dakota, which we talked about. That's a bucket list for me, but we'll get that in a little bit. So Miss Leah is on here, and we're going to be chit-chatting about becoming paralyzed from the waist down, from a spinal cord injury that was a terrible accident, which we'll get more into in the interview. But her and her sister started up a company and just learning how to roll with the punches as life comes, which I find just totally amazing. You guys know that I love these inspirational stories, and I love sharing just tips and tricks on how can we be as cool as these people and just keep on rocking and rolling. So Leah, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Townsend. I'm excited.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so you're in South Dakota, you said, right?
Yep.
Nice. Have you ever been to Arkansas?
One time. Yeah.
Really?
I did a very long 13-mile hike, and we afterwards ate at a like little barbecue place that was really tucked away and amazing.
Oh, no kidding. Do you remember what city it was in? Like Fayetteville or something?
It was near, what's that called? Little Rock, I think.
Yeah, holy cow. Okay, yeah, that's the capital of Arkansas.
Yeah.
Very
Or
good.
is there like a Springs something around there?
There's a Heber Springs.
I don't know.
There's a ton of
Anyway,
places. Arkansas,
it was
super
beautiful though.
outdoorsy. Oh, it is.
Yeah.
So here's the
Yeah.
deal. Next time you come to Arkansas, hit me up. I won't
Okay.
hike with you, but like I'll meet you at the barbecue place. That sounds great.
Sounds good.
No, I'm just messing. Okay, I am blown away. So I just ran across your story on socials. I'm always looking for people. People are reaching out to share their story. And I ran across yours. I'm really into art, and I saw these beautiful greeting cards. And so I clicked on them, and it led me straight to your story with your sister Grace. And I just think it is so amazing. So I would love to hear a little bit more about it. Would that be cool?
Yeah.
All right. So the company's called Tiny and Snail. So can you explain like who is Tiny and Snail? What does that stand for? How did that name come about? Let's just dive in.
Sure. So in 2017, or maybe a little before that, my sister and I was living in the middle of nowhere, Kentucky, and she was moving north south every 6 months with her husband, who's a golf pro. And so we both found it really hard to find work, especially meaningful work. And I was very isolated. And so but whenever I would talk to her on the phone, I always felt a lot better. And so one day she had started a little Etsy store. She was hand painting cards and selling them for like $8 or $9 a card or something like that. And she was getting kind of carpal tunnel issues from the repetitive nature of that.
Oh, wow.
And so I had actually gone to art school for 4 years for college and learned a lot about like how to digitize artwork and things like that. And so I said to her, like, Grace, let me be your hands and you can be my brain and we'll do this together because she's a lot more organized than I am. So uh she's my older sister by 2.5 years, and she's always had like type A personality. And
Mhm.
so like, she keeps me out of jail and I keep our website running. And so yeah, we started it up. It took a while for us to come up with a name. And then one day I was scrolling Instagram and came across a post from some family friends, and their little daughter had made like this comic that was called The Adventures of Tiny and Snail. And I was like, that's a really interesting name. And so at the time, I was living in a tiny house that my boyfriend and I had built together. And I was like obsessed with tiny houses. And my sister has always been obsessed with snail mail. And so um, it just seemed to fit really well. So we asked for permission to use the name, and they said yes. And so, yeah,
That
7 years
so
later,
cool.
we're still Tiny and Snail. So I'm Tiny, and my sister's Snail. And
Okay.
I kind of liked it because it kind of sounded um, like a cartoon law firm a little
Yeah.
bit.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I would come to y'all for sure. I don't know what services I would get, but I'd be like, yeah, sure. I choose Tiny and Snail to support me in court. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
It sounds like my sister now. My sister's quite a few years older and very type A. She keeps
Mm.
me, like out of jail, like you said, and I keep her young and kind of growing gray hairs. Like I think that's our job is just stress them out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think me too.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so what what exactly is your like I saw just greeting cards. Is that what y'all focus on?
Yeah. In the beginning, we did do just greeting cards, but then we did all other things too. Like every time we launched a new product, it took
Mhm.
focus away from our greeting cards.
Yeah, I totally get that. You don't want to put as a business owner myself, you try to like, okay, what would people like? And you try all these different things. It's kind of a trial and error type thing, but people come to you for what you're good at. And for me, that's music or the podcast. So when you try to put too many coals in the fire, it gets pretty hard. So I love that y'all are focused on the
Hmm.
greeting cards, which, like I said, is what attracted me to your story. And they're beautiful. You posted a video
Thank
the
you.
other day. You were sitting in the kitchen like getting inspiration for some greenery in the kitchen. And I thought that was really cool. You kind of showed the steps on your little tablet thing and drawing it. And it starts out this little sketch. And I thought, I could do that. And then it instantly becomes this like beautiful piece of art. And I'm like, never mind. I can't do that.
You could. You just need to practice a little bit more.
Nope. Nope. I'm going to leave that up to you. I love art, but if it's more than just like a stick figure, I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, we've always loved art, and like I have such strong memories of sitting at the kitchen counter growing up with my sister, and like we would both be doing art right next to each other. And so it's pretty amazing that, you know, all this time later, we're still making art together.
that is so
So,
cool.
yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, what is y'all's age?
I'm 35 and my sister is 37 or 38. I
Yeah, we'll
just
pretend
a
you're
number.
really
I
coming.
don't
Yeah, yeah,
remember.
we'll pretend we know for sure. Okay,
Yeah.
so tell us about your life-changing accident. So this is the part that I thought, wow, like the fact that you were able to stay strong, keep this business going is just so, so cool. So tell us a little bit about that
Are
accident
you
you had a
enjoying this
couple years ago.
conversation? This project is funded by patrons and sponsors, so if you like what you hear and you'd like to help us continue changing lives in 2024, we would love to have you join the family. Reach out to us at townsendtmusic@hotmail.com if you'd like to be a sponsor, or hop on patreon.com/townsendtmusic to join the patron family. As a thank you, you're going to receive extra podcast questions and content every episode, discounts, exclusive content, and so much more. So join the family and let's continue changing lives.
Yeah. So 5 years ago, I I was working for Habitat for Humanity as a construction worker. So if you remember, I was obsessed with tiny houses. And so when I moved home to Rapid City, my mom saw in a church bulletin like a advertisement. They were looking for construction laborers. And interestingly, my sister and I had actually raised $100,000 for Habitat when we were in high school. And so it was just like seemed really like this is what I was supposed to do now. So I was hired on. I worked for them for almost a year. We were working on a two-story house, and it rained really hard at lunch, like just poured. And the ground was really slippery. Like the mud was just like a skating rink, and I thought I was gonna like pull a groin muscle or something. And we would so a telehandler is like a forklift with a really long arm. So we'd put the rafter on, hoist it up to the second floor where the guys up there would be, hammering it in.
Mm.
And it was my job to hold on to a rope onto the rafter
Mhm.
so that it wouldn't swing around and like hit somebody out of the house. So I actually don't remember the accident itself. The last thing I remember is I felt like a little mouse leading a brontosaurus. And then the next thing you know, I woke up in the ICU. But I have been told details
Mhm.
about the accident. So it slipped in the mud and it must have pushed me back. Amazingly, like my flew off my head. It pushed me back and instantly my spinal cord at T4, T5, it burst. And so that like mangled my spinal cord. And it landed on my leg. And amazingly, one of the guys who was on site that day was a former Marine. He jumped out of the house immediately, tied his belt around my leg as a tourniquet, and it took them like 45 minutes to get me out from underneath the telehandler. Um, and they had to replace my blood like entirely while I was under there. So the fact that we're talking today is just like pretty crazy.
Wow.
And
So the whole machine slipped and fell on you, not like just the rafter.
right.
Like the
Yeah,
machine.
the
Oh
whole
my
thing.
gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Woke up in the ICU and they said I wouldn't really remember much of the ICU, but I remember it very clearly for the most part. And I woke up in a ton of pain and I didn't quite understand why I was in so much pain. Um, they had to tell me a few times that I was paralyzed and that I wouldn't walk again, but um, amazingly, the break happened like right at chest level. So I have full use of my hands still. And one of the things that my sister had prayed really hard for as soon as she heard this all happen, she said, God, you have to let her keep her brain and her hands. She has to be able to draw still. And so
Wow.
literally like the first question I asked, I couldn't even talk because I was intubated and I spelled it into my sister's hand, can I still draw? And yeah, because in college it was sort of like kind of a fear at the back of my mind that like what if I woke up one day and I wasn't able to draw still? Like I think so much of my identity was wrapped in that ability and love that like it was so deep within me when I found out that I was paralyzed that like whew, I mean there are definitely people I've met people since who are like they're paralyzed at their neck level and they like draw with their mouth, which
Oh yeah.
is amazing, and
Yeah.
I think like if it came down to it I probably could, but like I don't know, the fact that I got to keep my hands is pretty good.
What a huge blessing. What a blessing. I always think this when people go through a traumatic accident like you had. What a blessing that you don't remember it happening, right? Like how traumatic. Like I know you said you remember the ICU, but
Mhm.
the actual accident that happened at the work site. Oh gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Goodness.
I think my brain like was kind of trying to process it because I had some intense dreams in the ICU. Like I at one point or I had a dream where I fell off of a building and a nurse leaned over me and said, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad is your pain? And I was like, a million.
I just fell off a building. Yeah, I
Yeah.
imagine so. Wow.
So
So
like even though I didn't really remember it, I think my brain was still trying to process what happened. But
yeah, having
yeah.
dreams and stuff. The bodies are wild. They are definitely reminders of things, and they definitely try to almost put you in that survival mode. Like, okay, you don't need to remember this. It won't do you any good, which is so cool
Yeah.
to me. It's just so
So,
infatuating.
so one of the results of my spinal cord injury was that I have nerve pain. So like basically where my sensation stops, the nerve pain starts. And so like even as we're speaking right now, like every single cell in my paralyzed body is like screaming in pain. It's wild. I had no
Wow.
idea this was even a thing that happened to people. And so
Interesting.
like in the ICU, that was, you know, I think a large part of my pain was just trying to deal with the nerve pain.
Right.
And like it has never changed. Like it's never gone away. Sometimes it will feel different, like really icy cold some days, or like I don't know, some days it's harder to deal with than other days.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
Interesting.
like it's worse than not being able to walk.
Interesting.
By far.
I have heard some people that have their, so we were talking earlier, you had one of your legs amputated, and I have heard that there's like a phantom, your foot itches, but your foot's not even there, or your foot hurts
Mhm.
and it's not even there. Do you experience things like that?
Yeah. So like in my amputated leg, I also feel the nerve pain as well. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, it's really weird. But like they were going to try mirror therapy on me, and I was like, I don't know if it's gonna work because my left feel like also feels like it's in a lot of pain too. So
Interesting. Yeah.
anyway, but
What did healing look like for you? What did therapy did you go to therapy? What did rehab look like?
yeah, so I spent almost an entire month in the ICU.
Okay.
Um, and I had probably like 13 surgeries or something like that. Um, then I was transferred to a place via life flight down to Craig Hospital in Denver. And it's a really great spinal cord and brain injury rehabilitation center. Um, and I was there for 3 months. And they taught me a lot about like how to be independent again, you know, like transferring in and out of your bed and like transferring in and out of a car, kind of like working on some cooking skills, things like that. Um, then I went to a place in Omaha called QLI, and that was like a more advanced rehabilitation center. So like I was kind of learning how to live on my own again, and becoming pretty independent. I learned how to drive with my hands down there.
Wow.
Um, and yeah, I lived in a little apartment with a little kitchen that I, you know, was able to cook for myself a little bit. And
Now
yeah,
you had
so
mentioned having a kid, right?
mhm.
Did you have
So
that kid before all of this or after?
no, no, after. So um yeah, I had her. So my accident happened 5 years ago. Oh, this is interesting. While I was in the ICU, I ended up getting engaged to my boyfriend who I had been with for like 7 years before that
Yeah.
or something.
It's like we
But
might as
like
well do it now.
yeah, I like I think I had a real commitment issues before then, but then when I woke up and I realized like how crazy it was that I was alive still, like suddenly the choice was very clear. And um so yeah, I actually proposed to him. I was like, "Would you marry me?"
Oh,
He said, "Of
wow.
course."
How
And
special.
so yeah.
Yeah. I
And
mean, like what a big life lesson to be like, okay, life can end at any moment now. Like I think I'm ready to commit.
yeah,
How
for
cool.
sure. I was like, "Wow, life is really short." So like I don't have time to, you know,
Yeah.
mess around anymore.
Yeah, I
And, you
bet.
know, like,
Man.
and when I woke up and like realized that I was paralyzed, I thought I could not have found a more perfect person to be with me
Did
through
he
this.
install a car motor on your wheelchair?
Not
Like,
yet.
can you just fly like
He's
60 miles an
really
hour?
excited about like one day, like putting it, like hooking it up to solar or
Yeah.
something. And,
It
um,
charges by the sun. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Well, that
um,
worked out. Goodness gracious. So
yeah.
how would you, I mean, obviously it's leaps and bounds differently. I mean, I don't think people that aren't around this realize, I mean, this changes, like you said, how you transfer, how you go to the bathroom, how you do
Mhm.
everything. What did What's the biggest thing that changed that you feel like being wheelchair bound?
In general, like I've organized my life so that things are pretty accessible. Like, so I can drive and I can get in and out of the house by myself. I can like transfer myself in and out of bed and stuff like that. Um, Honestly, the pain is the worst, like the hardest thing to deal with day in and day out. And it's like, yeah, it's harder to deal with than basically everything else. I have like had some problems with um like pressure sores and things like that. So it's like and burns, being in like kind of a constant state of like something's wrong, that's kind of hard to deal with. But I think part of it, like I have made myself very busy, partly to stop thinking about all of it,
Sure. Yeah.
Um,
How do
so
you
having
how
a
do you
2-year-old's really handy for
Yeah.
keeping busy.
I bet,
And
yeah.
a business is very handy for keeping me busy. So
I am envious of women and men that can keep up with 2-year-olds with 4 limbs, much less 2 working limbs. Like, how the heck do you do that? That is wild. How do you feel
yeah,
like how do you feel like it affected your business?
actually quite positively.
Yeah.
Really interesting. But like, so 2 weeks before my accident happened, I was like laying down rebar in 90-degree heat and thinking like, oh, I wonder when I'm gonna be able to transition like part-time to Tiny and Snail. And then a telehandler fell on me, and I was like, oh well,
Now,
sooner than I thought.
hey,
um,
surprise.
yeah.
You're like, "Wait, I
So
should have been more specific in that prayer. I
yeah,
should have."
right. I know.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, I mean, it's given me, even though, rehab and like even still today, like dealing with my injury, like it does take a lot of time, but I was able to focus on Tiny and Snail, and I think that like the depth of experience that it gave us, like so a year after my injury happened, we released our second collection, and it was called the Keep Dancing collection, because dance was actually a really big part of my recovery too. And so it was sort of like encouraging cards and sympathy cards. And I think that we make cards, particularly encouraging cards and sympathy cards, like, mm, I don't think any other companies really make them like we do. And I think it's partly because, yeah, just the depth of experience we've had. Oh gosh, I don't know. I
Yeah.
think that's part of the passion of Tiny and Snail too, is like, these cards are like actually something that people can do for somebody going through
Right.
something hard. When something really hard happens, it's often hard to know what to say or like how to say it, but I think that like just doing your best and like writing it out anyway and sending it, and like, I don't know. When we hear encouraging words, I'm like really excited about the mental health aspect of
Yeah.
cards too.
Well,
And I know
hey,
that you're excited
ironically,
about
you're on a
mental
mental
health.
health podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. So like when we hear encouraging words, it triggers a dopamine in our head, and it helps us actually like do things, like do hard things, and give us more stamina to do hard things. So like the amount of cards that I received when I was in the ICU, I know they had something to do with like my ability to overcome the situation. And just
Yeah.
like the fortitude to keep going. And so, yeah, I don't underestimate the power of a card.
Hey. Oh, absolutely. I think you put it well. People don't know what to say in those moments. And I can't tell you the amount of times I've gone to the store and I'm like, I just need a card for this instance. And I cannot find one. So I love that not only are people supporting local, and the story behind it, but they're relatable and like they give you space to write in, like, going through your accident, going through all of these things. They're cards that you can find for that specific moment. I think that's really cool and obviously relatable for everyone. Um, do you feel like your accident, I'm sure it did, but that's two sisters. Do you feel like it brought y'all closer together?
Yes, for
Yeah.
sure. Like she flew out right away after the accident happened. And so she was with me like every single day in the ICU for
Wow.
30 days. And just seeing her walk into my room every day was just like the highlight of my day.
That's awesome.
And it, like, I don't know, she just brought like the sunshine into the room. And
That's awesome. Did you give her a card and say that? You should make
I don't know.
her
I made
own
so
card.
many cards for her.
Yeah, that say you brought
haven't-
sunshine to her.
Yeah, no, we actually just came out with one that says "Your sunshine in my winter." And
I love
yeah.
that.
So anyway, I just like we watched Queer Eye and we drew cards and we had dance parties. So I was saying that dance played a big role in my recovery. The doctors wanted me like lift my arms like every hour. They said, like do these exercises with your hands because like, you need to keep them working. And it was so hard to do at first.
Wow.
Partly because they had like sliced into my back with the muscles. And so like, anyway, but I said, oh, this would be so much easier if we had some music turned on. So, we would play dance music and we would dance and, just like having that, I guess, dopamine and
Yeah, I love
serotonin
that.
flowing and,
Absolutely. Who doesn't
so
love one, dance music, two, you're bonding with family? Like, golly, that's amazing. I love it. What do you
yeah,
feel like?
the nurses would come in and like dance with us and
Oh,
it was
heck
really fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that so much. Do you feel like, what do you feel like your long-term goal is for Tiny and Snail?
To keep going. Yeah, like I would love for us to get a little bigger so that it's like, a sustainable level for us.
I
Um,
love it. Have you had a ton of people reach out and be like, man, your story like resonates so much with us, or man, your cards just really hit home?
yeah.
How cool.
Yeah, it's really incredible. Like, the amount of people who say that and,
Yeah.
That they find hope and
Yeah.
inspiration. And so yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, that's definitely the most rewarding part, I think, is to have people say that it meant a lot for them to send the card to somebody. Or I, I'm an artist through and through, and it's just like really cool to get to put my art out into the world and have
Absolutely.
it really mean something.
Yeah. I do music full time in this podcast. So it's kind of the same idea. Like my art is different than yours, but they're both very vulnerable. And so when you share it with the world and someone comes back and is like, oh man, I really resonate with that song that you put out, it really made a difference. You're just like, oh, like how cool is that? It's such a great feeling. Okay,
Yeah.
what does self-care look like for you now? Now that you're 5 years out of your accident, you've kind of become a new norm, figuring things out. What do you do right now for self-care?
I think my biggest thing is getting in daily exercise and hopefully outside. Yeah. So I used to be a runner before my accident happened. Um and now I have something called a grit chair, and it has like levers that you pull or you push on instead of like just pushing the wheels with your like your hands. And so I feel like it sort of is my new running. And so I'll say like, oh, I'm gonna go on my run.
That's
I
funny.
decided like a couple months ago, I was like, if a river can run, so can I.
I
So
like that. Oh, if a river can run, so can I. Absolutely. I mean,
yeah.
you're running with your arms. I mean, it's the same
Yeah.
thing. Your arms are doing it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
love
there's something
that.
about like the rhythm of it that,
Yeah.
I would just
Heck
really
yeah.
like. So I mean, I'm not too big on other forms of self-care. I don't know. I just like
Having a
maintenance
2-year-old.
honestly
Yeah.
is where I'm at. It's like if I like can get through the day with doing the necessary things that I need for my body to work,
Yeah.
then that's about it.
Listen, I
Yeah.
don't have a 2-year-old and self-care is hard enough to do. I can't imagine.
Mm,
Can't imagine. So yeah, even the fact that you
yeah.
do a little bit of that's pretty impressive. I love
Yeah.
it.
And talking about like the mental health aspect of it, like I think that learning about neurochemistry and seeing kind of what it's been like in my own life, like it's a really interesting story because when I started Tiny and Snail, I was down in Kentucky. I was able-bodied, but I was super lonely and really anxious. Like I just lived with anxiety in my chest
Mhm.
for months, and I didn't really realize that it was probably due to being so lonely and
Yeah.
isolated.
Mhm.
But now looking back, so I moved back home. I started to find that I was like feeling pretty comfortable in my own skin again, and then the accident happened. And it's really interesting that like my before version wasn't as happy as I am now. So, and a nurse when I was at Craig told me that most people come back like a year or two later and say the accident was the best thing that ever happened in their life, which is absolutely crazy. Like
Right.
it doesn't really make sense that that would be most people's experience.
Yeah.
But I, I kind of agree with that. Like,
Yeah.
even though it's super hard, it like woke me up. It makes me really grateful for what I do have. And yeah, it makes you realize like how precious life is. And
Boy, isn't that right? Isn't that right? You'd
yeah.
be okay. So crazy you bring that up. So I had a girl on the podcast last season that had a spinal cord injury as well. She was super young. I think she was like 17 or 18 when it happened. And she said the exact same thing. She is
Wow.
paralyzed basically from the shoulders down. So she did not have very much
Mm,
movement in her arms, hands,
yeah.
legs. She lost family. She ended up getting adopted by one of the therapists that helped her through. It was a crazy
Wow.
story.
I'll
But
have to
she
go back and
said,
listen to that.
yeah, please do. She said it was the best thing that ever happened to her. And hearing
Wow.
her explain it, she talked about how, she's that age, 17, 18, where you're trying so hard to fit in and trying so hard to be cool. And she's saying, you know what? The people that accept me now are who really love me. Like I'm done
Mm,
faking and trying to fit in. And so she's talking about the friendships she's had now are the best they've been. The activities she does now, she doesn't take for granted. It was a really cool way to look at
wow.
life. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I felt the same way. Like when I
Oh,
woke up,
cool.
I was like, yeah, I am just gonna be genuinely myself now.
It kind of
So
takes you down into a deeper level of appreciation. I feel like
yeah.
things aren't so surface level. I love it. Leah, thank you so much for taking time to chat with us. It's been such a pleasure.
Yeah, you too, Townsend.
It's been so good. I love it. I loved y'all's story. I love your greeting cards. They are beautiful. If it's cool, I'd like to keep talking to you with my Patreons.
Yeah.
All right, let's
Sounds
do
good.
it. Okay, everybody
Okay.
that is listening, this is how this works. Every other week, I chit chat with my guest. We keep going. We do some extra questions, but they're for my patrons only. So if you want to hear this conversation, go to patreon.com/Townsendtmusic, and you can hear the rest of this. This is how we keep the podcast and the project going. You get really cool rewards, cool gifts in return. So hop on there, see how you can become a supporter. If not, we will catch you next time.
If you'd like to hear the rest of this interview, visit patreon.com/TownsendTmusic. And don't forget, you can also watch the interviews on our YouTube channel at Townsendtmusic YouTube.
Selena with Impact Coaching and Consulting is a certified life coach who helps women find harmony with their faith, family, and career. She offers a virtual goals workshop, mastermind group, and a one-on-one private coaching where she helps you identify your deepest purpose, develop a roadmap to reach tangible goals, and encourage you to overcome any obstacles along the way. Selena's worked with hundreds of business professionals throughout the United States, including small business owners, direct sales associates, chiropractors, financial advisors, real estate agents, doctors, professors, teachers, and many more. You can follow her at coach_Selena on Instagram and Impact Life Coaching on Facebook. You'll love the encouragement and the practical tips for finding harmony in your unique life. If you're looking to buy or sell, I have the perfect realty company for you. Clark & Co. Realty is located in the Benton, Bryant, Arkansas area, and they understand that buying or selling a home is more than just a transaction. It's a life-changing experience. That's why their team of highly seasoned real estate professionals is dedicated to providing exceptional, personalized services for all their clients. They truly take great pride in the relationships they build, and they always work relentlessly on the client's behalf to help them achieve their perfect real estate goals. They always have the client in mind, and I can speak firsthand when I say how reliable, trustworthy, and quick they were. When I was looking to buy my first home, they were there with me every step of the way, answering every question I could think of. They showed me a great amount of knowledge and patience through the process. It's no wonder they've won so many awards for their outstanding services and their excellent relationships with clients. So if you're looking to buy or sell, there is no better option than Clark & Co. Realty.